Negative thoughts are not strangers to the human mind. They arrive quietly, sometimes loudly, often uninvited. They appear in moments of silence, in the gap between ambition and achievement, in the pause before sleep, and in the instant after failure. To overcome negative thoughts, we must first understand a hard truth that philosophy has repeated for centuries. The mind is not your enemy, but it is not always your friend either. It is a powerful tool, yet a poor master. Most suffering does not come from reality itself, but from the stories we continuously tell ourselves about reality. A negative thought feels personal, but it is not unique. Every human who has ever lived has struggled with doubt, fear, regret, and self-criticism. The Stoics believed that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of things. This single idea holds immense power. When something goes wrong, pain may be unavoidable, but suffering is optional. Suffering begins when the mind adds meaning to pain, when it whispers, "This should not have happened," or, "This proves I am not enough." To overcome negative thoughts, we must separate events from interpretations. The first step is awareness. Most people do not think. They are thought. They live inside an endless stream of inner dialogue, assuming every thought is true simply because it appears in their mind. But a thought is just a mental event, not a command, not a prophecy, not a fact. When a negative thought arises, instead of fighting it, observe it. Ask yourself, who is watching this thought? The moment you observe a thought, you create distance from it. That distance is freedom. Ancient wisdom teaches that the observer within you is calm, silent, and untouched by chaos. The mind may shout, but the observer listens. Negative thoughts grow stronger when resisted blindly. What you resist, persists. When you try to force a thought away, you give it importance. The wiser path is acknowledgement without attachment. Say to yourself, "I see this thought, but I do not have to become it." Just as clouds pass through the sky without changing the sky itself, thoughts pass through consciousness without defining who you are. You are not the storm, you are the sky. Another powerful cause of negative thinking is the illusion of control. The mind desperately wants certainty in an uncertain world. When life refuses to cooperate, the mind responds with anxiety and pessimism. Philosophers remind us to divide life into two categories: what we can control and what we cannot. Your effort, your attitude, your choices belong to you. Outcomes, opinions of others, and the past do not. Negative thoughts often come from trying to control what is uncontrollable. Release that burden. When you focus only on what is within your power, the mind becomes lighter, calmer, and clearer. Comparison is another silent poison. In the age of constant visibility, the mind compares your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlights. This creates the illusion that others are progressing while you are stuck. Wisdom teaches that each soul walks a different path, at a different pace, under different conditions. A flower does not compete with another flower, it simply blooms when it is time. Negative thoughts thrive when you measure your worth by external standards. They fade when you measure growth by inner progress. One of the deepest philosophical insights is that suffering often comes from attachment. Attachment to outcomes, to identities, to expectations. When you attach your self-worth to success, failure becomes unbearable. When you attach your peace to approval, criticism becomes devastating. To overcome negative thoughts, loosen your grip. Care deeply, but cling lightly. Do your best, but accept that perfection is an illusion. The wise mind understands that life is a process, not a performance. Negative thoughts also feed on the past and the future. Regret lives in the past, anxiety lives in the future. Yet life only exists in the present moment. When the mind travels away from now, it creates suffering. Philosophy repeatedly calls us back to the present. Ask yourself, right now, in this exact moment, am I safe? Most of the time, the answer is yes. The present moment is often simpler and kinder than the mind makes it seem. Training yourself to return to now is one of the most effective ways to weaken negative thinking. Another essential practice is questioning your thoughts. The mind often speaks in absolutes. I always fail, nothing ever works, I am not good enough. These are not truths. They are exaggerations. Challenge them gently. Ask, is this thought completely true? What evidence do I have? What would I say to a friend who thought this way? Wisdom grows when the mind learns humility, when it accepts that it does not know everything. Many negative thoughts collapse under honest inquiry. Gratitude is not denial of pain, it is recognition of balance. The mind naturally focuses on what is missing, broken, or wrong. Gratitude shifts attention to what is present, working, and meaningful. Philosophers understood that happiness is not found in acquiring more, but in appreciating what already exists. When gratitude becomes a habit, negative thoughts lose their dominance because the mind cannot hold despair and appreciation with equal intensity at the same time. Silence is another forgotten teacher. Constant noise, information, and stimulation exhaust the mind and amplify negativity. Wisdom traditions across cultures emphasize solitude and stillness. In silence, you begin to hear the difference between useful thought and unnecessary mental chatter. Silence reveals that many negative thoughts are repetitive, hollow, and powerless when not constantly fed with attention. Purpose also plays a crucial role. A mind without direction becomes a breeding ground for negativity. When you have a clear sense of meaning, difficulties feel lighter because they are connected to something greater than comfort. Purpose does not have to be grand, it only has to be sincere. Even small daily actions done with intention give the mind something constructive to focus on. As Nietzsche suggested, a person with a strong why can endure almost any how. It is also important to understand that overcoming negative thoughts does not mean eliminating them forever. That expectation itself becomes a source of negativity. Wisdom lies in acceptance of imperfection. Even the most enlightened minds experience doubt and darkness. The goal is not to never think negatively, but to not be ruled by those thoughts. Progress is measured by how quickly you return to clarity, not by how often you fall into confusion. Compassion toward yourself is essential. Many people fight negative thoughts with self-criticism, which only deepens the problem. Speak to yourself with the same patience you would offer someone you love. Growth flourishes in kindness, not cruelty. The inner voice you cultivate becomes the environment in which your mind lives. Make it supportive, not hostile. Finally, remember this philosophical truth: you are always becoming. You are not fixed, broken, or finished. Every moment offers a chance to respond differently, to choose awareness over reaction, wisdom over impulse. Negative thoughts are part of the human condition, but they are not the final authority on your life. They are visitors, not residents. When you learn to observe rather than obey, to question rather than assume, to accept rather than resist, the mind slowly transforms. Not into a silent machine, but into a wiser companion. And in that wisdom, you discover a quiet strength, the understanding that peace does not come from controlling thoughts, but from no longer being controlled by them.